Well, the bilateral agreement went beyond most people's expectations. The positive market reaction yesterday reflects that. There's been a mutual lowering of tariffs way down to pre-April levels, so that it's actually affordable to ship goods to both countries again. And the fact that both sides characterize the talks as quote unquote constructive and have a coordinating joint statement is very rare, especially since as of a few weeks ago, people were still wondering which side is going to blink first and cave in. So this has all set the path for a more managed decoupling between the two countries, even though Secretary Bessent said that they were not seeking decoupling. He said in a press conference that the Americans have identified 5 to 6 strategic industries that they will seek gradually decoupling from, such as pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, and steel. And, Emily, I think although this is just nominally a 90-day truce, they could extend it if necessary, just like the TikTok sale deadline. And both sides have also identified who their chief negotiators are. And most importantly, for the Chinese side, there is an agreement on a joint mechanism for future discussions. And this is very, very important for two reasons. The first is that Beijing is very, very comfortable with operating within a fixed framework of communication. They have relied heavily on working groups discussions under the Biden administration, and also the strategic and economic dialogues under Presidents Bush and Obama. They like the predictability and regularity from Washington when dealing with the U.S. president. And secondly, there will be no more hand-wringing or face-saving gestures needed around who is backing down first or who reached out to who first. Having a mechanism benefits Beijing immensely. And to your point, Emily, that the Chinese don't seem to be losing anything. They had a lot to lose if the trade war and the high tariffs were to continue. There were unfavorable noises coming out of Beijing and China in general about unemployment statistics and the potential long-term impact of these tariffs. So it's not a total capitulation from the U.S. side as some are characterizing. That the Chinese had a lot to lose by continuing the trade war too. So it's really to both sides' benefit that they're finally coming to the table and agreeing on this joint statement to move forward with.
So you mentioned who blinked first or who flinched first. Would you agree then that this was a 100% retreat by the U.S.?
I disagree with that characterization. I think the fact that both sides have come to the table mutually in a gentlemanly way without either side claiming total victory or triumph over the other is an indication that both sides have recognized that they have each other by the throats and neither side benefits from having high tariffs persist for a long period of time. And they've come to this agreement to negotiate on hopefully a deal beyond what is now currently the tariffs are currently at. So purchase commitments, other sticking issues from the U.S. side, such as fentanyl. We saw that China is sending their Minister of Public Security, Wang Xiaohong, to talk to his U.S. counterparts to see what China can do to alleviate U.S. concerns on fentanyl. So all those developments are considered a win, if you might say that or characterize that for the U.S. side as well. So I wouldn't say that this is a capitulation or 100% retreat from the U.S. side either.
So we've watched as the tariff levels went up to as high as 145%. It has now come down to 30%. But in this time, how has the United States addressed the fundamental issues here, the underlying issues, its trade deficit with China?
I think that is the reason why we should continue to remain sober about where U.S.-China relations are heading. This is, as we have to constantly remember, only a truce, and the structural issues underlying U.S.-China tensions still exist, such as you mentioned, excess capacity, trade imbalances. They have not been fundamentally solved. This is just this agreement has reduced tariffs to its pre-April levels, but there are still a whole host of other issues beyond trade that divide the U.S. and China that could potentially destabilize bilateral relations once more or even upset the chances of a deal. Any nasty policy surprises from Washington that Beijing has not been expecting could upset the agreement. Washington could change its U.S. policy, could change the U.S.'s policy stance on Taiwan. There could be congressional actions targeting China. Washington could take further punitive actions against China on the COVID origins issue. All these are sensitive issues in Beijing that they do not want to see from Washington because they will destabilize relations and they could upset the uneasy truce and ceasefire that has been reached.
Donald Trump has characterized this as a total reset in terms of bilateral relations, and we know how involved he likes to get. He joined in the initial trade negotiations with Japan. We're still waiting on a trade deal there. But how likely now, as we all look to this week being a potential call between President Trump and President Xi Jinping, in terms of this reset that he's calling for, what are you expecting? What are you going to be looking out for if these two presidents speak?
I think if these two presidents speak, the content of their readouts is going to be largely a conservative one. They're going to affirm the achievements that they have reached in this trade deal. They're going to affirm the need for good relations between the two powers. I don't think they are going to make any additional promises, concrete promises, out of a phone call that have not already been reached at the working level or have been stipulated in the agreement. Having a phone call or a meeting with between the two leaders will definitely send a positive signal to markets and to both sides, and that will certainly encourage more working level discussions and negotiations on how the ceasefire and a deal can be reached.